The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host and producer, Kristina Liu, along with my co-host today, Otto Los and Paula Ewell. Paula is the deputy commissioner of the town of North Hempstead Services for the Aging, and Otto, of course, is our volunteer and supporter and PI, face of PI, I would say.
Yes.
There's just so much we could say about
I would
you.
only do that if the people.
Oh,
like
that's
you
what we
are.
like to hear. That's what we like to hear. And this morning we are talking to Randy Hight, who is the director of Nancy Marx Cancer Wellness Center at Sid Jacobson Jewish Community Center. And we're talking all about the services that are there. Randy, we looked up before the show started, was back on in 2019, before the pandemic started. You might have been one of our last guests before the world went awry. So welcome back in our brand new studio that's renovated. So I'm happy you are joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. So there's so many wonderful programs, and the town of North Hempstead Project Independence has been partnered with JCC for many, many years, right, Paul?
Almost 20 years.
And there's just so many different programs. But this one in particular, the Nancy Marx Cancer Wellness Center just offers so many services. And I'd love to just dive in. What is the Nancy Marx Cancer Wellness Center?
Okay. So the Cancer Wellness Center offers people with any type of cancer free programming, services, and a community.
So all the services are free?
Everything that we provide is for free. As far as that is concerned, we wanted to reduce any barriers to services for people because cancer is so expensive. The thought was we can't put something else on people's plates. That's first. And then second of all, we don't want to separate the haves and the have-nots. So, those people who have financial difficulties, are not getting the best medical care perhaps and things like that. So when they come to us, everybody is the same. Mm-hmm. So the Cancer Wellness Center began a bunch of years ago, and we were providing services for people with any cancer. And it started out when I started out in 2017. No, I started in 2007. That's a lot of different years. And it was 2 days a week for an hour each group. It was a half an hour of exercise and a half an hour of discussion group. And then as time went on, I just noticed that this population really needed more and more. Bringing you back to today, we have short-term individual counseling sessions, again, with a licensed clinician for free. We have discussion groups that are specific to different populations. We have a group for people with breast or gynecological cancers, a men's only group. We have a group for people with metastatic cancer, a caregiver group, and we have a general population group. We have an annual retreat that we do at Shibley Day Camp, and they've been fabulous to give us the space. And that's really a high note of everything that we do. And then we also provide psychoeducational programming. And that is really, I think, tremendous. Monthly, we have at least 2 programs. It's either doctors, nurses, any kind of supportive services. And this is informational, and people can come on to the Zoom. That's the other thing that we do. A lot of what we are doing now is we're back in person. We've been asked, and that is tremendous because we're building such a beautiful community that people look forward to seeing each other even more so than the exercise class that they're coming for or whatever. The in-person energy.
The social component. That's what we always say, because with our exercise class, it was the same thing. It's great, to do the exercise, but it was really just those relationships and that you were able to, and especially when people are dealing with, cancer, it's just so important.
Exactly.
Would it be safe to say that you get involved with supportive programs and services that's everything but the medical aspect of it?
Exactly,
Right, okay.
exactly.
So,
Perfect, Otto.
I
Thanks,
mean, you're
Otto.
not getting.
Yes.
He's like, I just gave you your tagline. There you go.
Yes.
Would you provide guidance or talk to people about the medical part of it?
So if
Or is it
we,
more the mental and
emotional.
emotional health part of it?
well, we definitely talk about nutrition. We have dietitians come in that will talk about that aspect of people's dealing with their disease and also going forward after disease. Everybody should be thinking about their health and wellness. As far as giving referrals to doctors, we're not that comfortable doing that.
Okay,
They're welcome to ask each other where they go for their treatments and things like that, but that's not something that we're comfortable with. And I'll always say, we're not the doctor, we're the social workers, we're the providers of these services that we have. But by all means, we'll help you, we'll guide you, we'll make phone calls I've called hospitals to say, I have a person who has X, Y, and Z. Who would you refer them
Right.
to versus coming from us, from our, let's say, database?
you
So
haven't had a lot of personal exposure and my own exposure. One of the things about cancer is the way I see it is there's always like a gray cloud hanging over your head.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm hearing is that you help take that gray cloud and make it less gray.
Disperse it a little bit.
There's a lot of mental stuff that goes into it, waiting in between results of tests and, what do we do now and blah, blah, blah.
right. So scanxiety is what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, the
Write
gray
it down,
cloud
please.
anxiety,
Anxiety.
right.
People are concerned before. You could be
Yeah.
8, 10 years out, and when you know that you have to go for that scan, it's
Yeah.
always in the back of your mind. Is it coming back? And the other thing, Otto, I agree with you. We try to alleviate some of this gray cloud, and one of the things we really work on is for each individual to realize that they're not cancer. They're a person
Yeah.
that is dealing with cancer. And so, with programming, we have creative arts. So people are able to express themselves that way. And also through conversation, different programming, even the social, that people want to be with others who understand where they're coming from, but they may not be doing something that's cancer heavy.
Right.
And
I
so,
think is a lot of people, and I brought this up before, my mom dealt with cancer, and that's like it's too heavy for her to constantly be around, just like the cancer topic, and I think that that's what's so good. It's like sometimes you want these, but that's not the primary focus, of what you're discussing or something.
exactly. And the other thing that I find is once people are finished with treatment, that's when they really need the support.
Yeah.
During the time that they're diagnosed and they're going through treatments, so surgeries, their goal is to get rid of the cancer. And they're soldiers. Many of these people come back and they're like, I didn't even think about what was going on because all I wanted to do was get rid of the cancer.
Right.
And then when that cloud settles, as you're saying, Otto, the gray cloud, those people also have been covered by their doctors and their PAs, and everybody's, gathering around them to make sure they're okay. Well, when the doctors say, oh, there's no evidence of disease, people are left saying,
Now what?
okay,
Now
exactly.
what? Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
what?
Now what?
Right.
What do we do next?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that's where a lot of the emotional
Yeah.
stuff starts to creep up. And there's no reason to have to live your life worried, anxious, isolated. There are so many things, or fatigued, so many things that go along with the cancer journey that we help to address.
That's a good wording, by the way, cancer
journey.
journey.
Yeah, because it is a journey.
Because it is a journey. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you provide any type of grief counseling or grief support, like for the members that maybe were in the group or families that now are dealing with it? Is
Yeah.
that something that, what do you?
Yeah,
what
so
is
Sid
that?
Jacobson has been running bereavement groups for many, many years. And so we have had people who come to group. Unfortunately, either they die and their spouse will go to one of our bereavement groups, or we have I have a caregiver group. And so if their spouse dies, the one with the cancer dies, they've come to the bereavement groups.
Okay.
And people typically stay, I don't know, depends on what their needs are, but oftentimes they can stay upwards of a year and a half
Wow.
to be
Yeah.
able to process the
Yeah.
grief.
Yes. Okay. That's
So
wonderful.
that's one of the amazing things about being part of Sid Jacobson JCC is that we have so many different departments.
Right, that are even
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
the cancer
You
center.
know, that's a
Exactly.
question. You just said something there that so many departments. People who are listening to this might say, okay, they have so many departments, where do I go? Like, how do I get involved with what might be valuable at, Sid Jacobson? How do I know where I should go? Like, how does that happen? Would somebody just call there and,
They can. Somebody at the front desk will certainly guide them. But if it's somebody who has cancer,
that's specific?
yes,
Right,
I would have them reach out to Joy Rubel
right.
at 516-484-1545 and ask for her. What will happen is she will do an intake, and we assess the needs of each person that calls. Sometimes people call and they say they don't have food. Well, we have a food bank at the JCC.
Yeah.
So we're able to provide packages of food for people, and they have a new program that's called the Lunchbox, and that's prepared foods that people in the community have made and frozen.
Oh, that's so
And then
nice.
those meals can be sent to people's homes.
Is that specifically for people dealing with cancer from your, no, so that's
No,
the general
no,
community.
the
Okay.
general
Okay.
community. So we have, even elderly people who are food insecure
Mhm.
and may not have the energy for whatever the reason is. They may be a caregiver of somebody who has Alzheimer's
Yeah.
or,
How do you get the food to the person?
Yeah, I was just gonna
Does
ask that
somebody
question,
have to
right?
come and pick it up, like if they're alone, or like how does it work?
Well, our catchment area is really the town of North Hempstead,
Mhm.
and we have volunteers that will deliver.
Okay, perfect.
Hmm.
So if
That's the
anybody
answer
was
I wanted.
yes,
No, that's so
That's great.
helpful for
Yeah,
us. I mean, because
yeah.
this,
We
for the two of us,
definitely-
it comes up, yeah, all the
Yep.
time.
That
We
definitely
keep
is.
some, we
Yeah.
keep some non-perishable food a little bit in our main office.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, just in case for those Friday afternoon, 10 to 5 emergencies. And
Yeah, that's
then
great. I didn't
our-
realize that.
One of our staff usually will take it to the person.
And now, is there any kind of age requirement or, like what is the age range that you could service in the wellness center?
So we typically have seniors because that's the age that cancer hits. We are seeing an uptick in younger people. So we do have people in their 40s and 30s that come to us, and we're working on putting together a new initiative for people. It's called early onset cancer. And that's been in the news lately. And what we do is we respond to the needs of the community rather than saying, oh, we think this is good for you. We listen to what people say and what their needs are, and then we will work to the best of our ability to be able to provide services for that population. But no children. We
Yeah.
do have, we just recently did a 3-part series for families with children, obviously, it's a family. So it was the parents and their children came. We had a psychologist come, and we did programming on learning about feelings, how to deal with worry, and that hopefully will be expanded on with this new initiative. But the people who attended really felt that they were learning something. They weren't alone. The other children learned that other people, the children had parents with cancer. And so, we do say that cancer is a family
I was
disease.
Right,
just
yeah.
gonna say that, Randy, and that's all that was through my head. I mean, that is so hit the nail on the head because I think obviously it's affecting the person, but I think sometimes your family, it's even worse, because you're just like, and you just feel like so helpless and you want to save the day. And it's quite difficult to navigate that situation.
Well, there are like some situations which I've witnessed where family could almost be a detriment because they're in denial of the
Yeah, of
fact that
course.
this
It's complicated,
person
right?
really has cancer.
Yeah.
Oh no, but I've been there.
Yeah.
No, you can't have, yeah, I do, And I think the need to be able to talk with people who understand your situation, who are in the same boat, is really very, very valuable. You're not in the battle alone. It is a battle. It's got all kinds of stages. It's not a one day you walk in, you take a couple of antibiotic pills, and it's all over. It don't work like that.
No.
It's a journey, and it could be a long journey. Between that and dementia, those to me are the two bad words.
Yeah, they're big. When people hear you have cancer, your world changes from that day forward.
Right.
And it's scary, and people just don't know what to do with it. But, medicine has been changing. People are doing better. There's studies, there's actually statistics that are showing that people aren't dying as readily from cancer as they had in the past. But there are also more and more people who are becoming diagnosed with cancer because of the environment and the way that people sit so much, and the foods that we eat and the microplastics, and there's so much that
Yeah,
that
we
goes
have
You
no
can't even
idea.
keep up,
No, I
right? It's
can't.
so hard
Yeah,
to keep up.
yeah.
Like every day,
Yeah.
essentially, you hear something new, and you're like, "Oh my God!" Like
Yeah.
what? It's just
Yeah. And even the medical community, I think, like when people are in their 30s and 40s, they're sent for all sorts of other, like, I don't think doctors think, oh, this could be cancer right away. And I think even as the person saying, oh, my stomach's upset or I'm more tired, like you might not even realize these are some of
Yeah.
the classic symptoms of a type of
Yeah.
a cancer. And it's very challenging to accept that and to even know where to go for help.
No doubt.
So,
Well,
yeah.
we're going to take a short break, and after the break, we will continue talking with Randy Hight, who is the director at the Nancy Marks Cancer Wellness Center at the Jacobson Jewish Community Center. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Kristina Liu, along with our co-host today, Paula Yule and Otto Los. We're going to continue talking with Randy Hight, who is the director at the Nancy Marks Cancer Wellness Center over at St. Jacobson Jewish Community Center, all about the wonderful services that you provide. And I know prior to the break, you were touching upon some of the support groups that you offer. So I would love to kind of get into depth about what each support group is.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes. So we have an in-person breast and gynecologic group. We have upwards of 16 to 18 people who are on our roster. Any day we can have between 12 and 14 people show up. And as I said earlier, they come for each other.
Yeah.
And we started a new program recently. It's called Peer Partners. And so we have a training for the partner. And basically what this is to provide a warm hand to welcome people into our cancer center.
Oh, that's great.
So we have found, and I have found over the course of the time that I'm doing this, that people don't necessarily want to walk into the agency by themselves, or they find it difficult. We actually recently heard from one woman who said that she pulled into the parking lot 2 times and she turned around.
Left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she did agree to having a peer partner who met with her. They had coffee. They got to know each other.
So that's before they come in and for evaluation.
so nice.
Exactly.
Okay. That's
Exactly.
great.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I bring it up when talking about the breast cancer group is because a bunch of the people who are peer partners happen to be in the breast or gynecologic group. That's not to say we don't have other peer partners with different cancers, because we certainly do. But it's a really warm group. And then what happens is, because they're in that group together, they say to each other, oh, are you going to this exercise class? We have a walking group over at the Nassau County Museum of Art on
Oh,
Thursdays.
nice. That's such a great place. I'll give a little plug. That's a great place to walk. I mean, that's really wonderful.
It's great. And these people walked throughout the winter. They go in
Wow.
the rain.
Yeah, you get determined, I'm gonna get there. Right.
And
There's
right?
Otto. Yeah,
Yes.
you do it.
At
Yeah.
Jones Beach.
Right, yeah.
And right, I don't get it, honestly.
Oh, no,
me
it's
too.
great. It becomes like
There
psychological,
are
you
some
have to
days
go.
where we do
Right.
cut the walk a little
Right.
shorter.
But you know what? You made it there. That's the
We're
first
freezing
step.
to death,
Right.
basically.
Yeah, and we have an indoor track.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
the
but-
agency.
Right.
They
But
don't
that's,
want- They
Right.
want to
see,
be
but that's
outside.
boring, though. That's boring.
yeah, being
boring.
outside.
Walking around a track.
14
Truth
times
to
is
me.
one mile.
Yeah.
14 times.
Wow.
Right, exactly.
One
It's-
mile when you're walking outside goes like.
Yeah.
It
that.
does,
Exactly.
yeah.
And
Exactly.
talking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the breast cancer group, and then what happens is we have people who are in treatment that will come, who are completed treatment, and of course we have some people who are a little bit further down the line, and they support each other with whatever the needs are, asking about treatments, again, asking about doctors, talking about who I am with cancer, without cancer. There are really very deep conversations that occur. Susan Stein is the facilitator of that group. And so that's one of our groups. We have a caregiver group, which is a very caring group. That's a virtual group. We have that in the evenings. And it's hard to be a caregiver, to watch your loved one deal with treatments and side effects and things like that. And then what ends up happening often is they don't necessarily take care of themselves.
No, and I think too, and you had mentioned that, you're largely dealing with the senior population. And I think that adds, even more of a struggle, because, here you are, you're aging, and having your own things, and now you're caring for your loved one it's like layer on top of layer on top of layer, so it's extra important, these kind of caregiver groups.
Yes, yes.
And Randy, in preparing for this show, I
Yes.
watched the segment that you had done about a year ago, I think, on the Donna Drake show.
Yes,
And you had a woman on there, Dolores Persky,
yes.
who had metastatic breast cancer. And that was a specific group by itself.
Yes.
Two things, really. Not everybody might understand what the word metastatic is. If you could just say what that is.
Okay. Yes, we do have a group of people with metastatic, advanced, or recurrent cancers.
Right.
Dolores is one of our participants I just want to give her a plug because she just yesterday was at a cancer summit in Massachusetts talking about metastatic cancer. She's really an advocate. And she was the one who got us onto the Donna Drake show. And she's just dynamic, dealing with side effects, waking up and not feeling well. So metastatic cancer is a cancer that starts in one place in the body and it moves to different parts of the body. And once that happens, they can keep it under control. And that's the beauty of medicine these days. But you're never cured from cancer if you're metastatic. You will always be a metastatic cancer survivor for the rest of your life.
Right.
And so we have witnessed and we've helped and guided some of the people in group towards the end of their life. And we mourn their loss when they do go. And believe it or not, the people come back to support the rest of the group that's there.
Well, when I watched that, we have this thing we talk about golden nuggets, all right? And there were a number of golden nuggets that came out of that brief segment, one of which was that Dolores talked about, and that was people who have cancer, when they talk with you, listen to what they're saying. Don't like fly by, listen and hear what they're saying. And I thought that was pretty important. In any case, all right, in life in general. But when somebody's going through something, people have a tendency to immediately go into their own stuff. Like, oh yeah,
You've been in my family
Uncle
function.
Charlie had, and they don't even know who Uncle Charlie is, but yeah, I mean that it seems to be like, that's
Yeah.
what happens, all right?
Yeah.
You're trying to tell me about your problems with cancer, and my response is, yeah, Uncle Charlie, he had that, and I don't hear a word you're saying. And I think that was very important. Golden nugget was to listen to what the people are saying who have cancer. see what's going on up there. And,
Right.
that was a golden nugget. And then the other one that we talk about here all the time is being mindful and taking things one day at a time and be in the moment. And I think your programs are what I've read and whatnot. That's the type of thinking you're trying to get across,
We only have this minute.
Yeah.
No, you know what
Yeah, I
always
mean,
struck.
the last minute is over.
It is.
But what struck me too with that is that my mom has a wonderful doctor who I just absolutely love. And she always says that because she said, listen, because, my mom is, her baseline is, super anxious. And now with this, it's like, forget it, through the roof. But the doctors are like, listen, the point is you're taking a pill, right, for a treatment. So to live. So you have to live, and it sounds so simple because you sit there because you're like, oh, wait, like that makes sense.
I'm living.
Right. Like I'm not, the point is you're doing this too. So you want to live happy and you don't want this to constantly be that cloud that's, like looming over every situation. And I think that really goes with, like living in the present, in the moment, which is, easier said than done
Yeah.
sometimes, right?
Well, you have to work
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
We've talked about it a lot of
Yeah.
times. Most people don't wake up and say, "Ah,
I'm
boy,
alive."
Right.
what a great
Right,
day,"
right.
Yeah.
What a great day.
Right.
And they do that every day.
Right.
And like there's nothing in their way. I don't think it works like that. I
Yeah.
think we wake up,
Yeah.
some days we're
Yeah.
a little,
Yeah.
sluggish or
Mhm.
whatever. And you have to really work at your mental attitude
Yeah. Yeah.
all
Absolutely.
the time, really.
Yeah.
It's not like, you just go, okay,
Yeah.
I'm good now.
Mhm.
I don't think
Yeah.
it works like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think for caregivers, it's hard for them to take the time to take care of themselves because it's such an overwhelming
Yeah,
job
right, of course.
to
Very
be
hard.
caregiving somebody that's dealing with
Yeah.
cancer and all the side effects and all the things. To say, well, I need a break now
Mhm.
is a very, and with all caregiving
Yeah.
also.
True.
But it's, it's just like, it's very overwhelming. So this sounds like a wonderful, the walking group, I think sounds amazing.
Come on.
Really, I might. That would sounds
Thursdays
wonderful.
at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my first wife died of
Yeah,
pancreatic
yeah.
cancer at
Yeah,
the
you
age
were
of
the
40.
caregiver.
Um,
Yeah,
and it was a long time. I was a
with
caregiver
small
Yeah.
children,
with
right?
3 kids.
40
Yeah.
years old
Yeah.
is in
And, I've been there for my father had stomach
Yeah,
cancer.
yeah.
And it's like you,
Yeah, yeah,
not as bad as you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It
But
was
you know
fast.
what? It's all relative.
It is,
to
It is
right.
to you,
all right?
absolutely.
Everybody has
Their own,
their own
definitely.
story, if you will, and
definitely.
how you get through it and how you help the person get through it. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think there's any magic
No,
formula.
definitely not.
You
When,
need support from programs like yours, and
Mhm.
I wish they had stuff like that
Right.
back
Yeah.
when I was involved.
Yeah.
I would have talked to other people.
absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it like I'm looking at it from a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
Of someone that recently went through it with a lot of family and so you see things changed and like I was far away but I don't recall anything like any of this
Right.
being presented to family or caregivers that I was aware of, and I did back in 1999 and 2000 I did 2 Avon 60-mile walks.
Oh,
So I
yes.
did the
Mhm.
3-day.
60 miles?
Yeah, you walked from
You have to, like, 3 days.
Manhattan to Bear Mountain. And then, it was 60 miles over 3 days. So you walked 20 miles,
This is
20
another
miles.
subject I'd like to
20
talk
miles.
about.
And we did it.
Yeah,
I did it
follow
with my
it.
best
Yeah.
friend, Lisa. And we did it because her mom had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. So we were like, we're going to support Lisa's mom. She needed to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And so we signed up for this walk and you slept in pup tents at night. It was just
I was going to ask you,
grueling.
Yeah.
how long did it take?
3 days.
Yeah,
It's a
it was
3.
3
They
days,
called it
yeah.
the 3-day.
Wow.
So it was technically 4 because you got to Bear Mountain. We started in Bear Mountain and we walked to Manhattan, Central
Downhill
Park.
then.
Central Park. I didn't
I
feel
was trying to
downhill.
get like a full framework of this.
Downhill.
Get that way.
I know it was hard. But
Going
and
the
then
other way, you've been
and then we did,
uphill.
we did it, and then it was so funny. She was pregnant shortly after that, had her 3rd son, and we did it again. She was 12 weeks. She had her son, and she was, we're doing it, and I was like, yeah, are you sure? Like you really want to? Because you have to train. You don't
Yeah.
just go out and do the 60 miles. But it just being around so many people.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, it was almost like a social, it was like I don't want to say, this is going to sound weird, but like breast cancer wasn't that it was popular, but it was like a topic everybody was talking about. And you saw these 3 days and pink ribbons and I know with my sisters, they were like, I don't want a pink, don't get
Yeah.
me anything pink. I'm not just, this
Yeah.
isn't, that's not what
No, my
me.
mom's the same way
And
though.
I'm
She
like,
doesn't
okay,
think
you
don't
know,
say anything
but
else.
some people,
Yeah, I get it.
it's a different identity. And you really have to look at the person
But that's what I think
individually.
with all like the programs that you do, and I,
Yeah,
and
they're
I know with
wonderful.
Project Independence, that's why we're a bunch of social workers who
Yeah.
listen to people. But I think, listening to what, is in need, and you're constantly kind of coming up with a new thing because, right, as great as it is, and everyone cancer, it's this broad term, everyone's journey is so individualized,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And you're coming with it with different things, and you're all at different stages, and I know that was a big struggle for my mom when she was first diagnosed because it was helpful to some people, but she was comparing too much, right? So it's like and I kept saying to her, and her doctor was like, it's an individual journey. You can't like expect what happened to your friend over here is going to be your story, So I think that that's what's great about having these kind of different groups because a lot of it it is a lot different when you're dealing with a metastatic thing than something else. So I think having an individualized programming like that is just so
But how do you
wonderful.
get people to use these programs? My view is you need as many smart feet on the street as
Yeah.
you can have.
But I think
Yes.
those
That
peer things are so wonderful because, even with Project Independence, right? We always say to this day, I mean, we're constantly doing promotion and stuff, but the best way to get your foot in the door is your friend or your neighbor telling you, right? Because if Otto says, oh my God, I just went this program was so great, and it's like, oh, okay, let me try it out. It's so different than reading on a paper sometimes,
Yeah, and some people
something.
will completely ignore what you're talking about and not take advantage
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
you can only go by those who want to
Yeah.
try to get support. I think. I don't think you can make people get
So-
support.
So we recently, I'll just finish up
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
groups.
Yeah.
So we have the caregiver metastatic, we have a general group for people with any cancer, and we have a men's only group. The men's only is not as frequented as the breast or gynecological group. I know there are men out there with cancer. Women, tell your husbands to call because I know that once they do walk through the door, they have a place that they can talk to other men. And again, find somebody who has a similar mindset.
Yeah.
That thread that keeps you connected. It may not be the same cancer, but the experience of having to deal with the treatments and not feeling well. And, oftentimes the men think of themselves as, the person of the family, the
Right,
head of the family, and they're feeling weak. And that's not a very comfortable feeling. So I really want to let people know that we do have programs and that we do with both men and women. And then we also have for the men only. So that was one thing I wanted to say about.
Yeah,
And as far as you're talking about the Avon walk. So every
Yeah.
year we have our 5K. It's called Stronger Than Cancer 5K. And the money
Kristina, we got
that
to do it.
I know. I was
Yeah.
reading when I was
So-
reading
Let's
about it.
sign up.
Yeah, when I was reading about it.
and that money that we raise allows us to do all these free programs.
Yeah.
So it's
Great.
really important for people to come out and to
You
support
get your
us.
funding through donations primarily.
Yeah. Yeah. Grants, fundraising, and donations.
When are your walks usually at
In
the same
October.
time? They're always October.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I wanted to say. And then the last thing was as far as outreach. So we developed an amazing advisory committee, and this committee is made up of people who are presently participating in our services, people who have completed, have decided, you know what, thank you very much. I've received the services, but I'm going to do other things with my life. But now they're coming back to be on the advisory
Oh, that's
committee.
great.
And those are the people who are feet on the ground. They're bringing brochures to their doctor's offices. They're going to the local libraries. They're helping spread the word. If we go to a hospital, they're the ones doing the tabling. And many of them are also our peer partners. So the desire to give back is really strong and greatly appreciated. So it's been amazing. It's really been amazing that if you give people the opportunity to give back, that they, you
It's so
know,
rewarding.
Yeah.
And there's so much positive benefit to that
Mhm.
person too. It's so,
It's a
it's so
two-way
win-win.
deal.
Absolutely.
I mean, I got involved with this program, frankly, a long time
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
And the reason I did was simple. My mother lived with my wife and I for 11 years. We were both working. We had no project independence. Uh, so everything was pick and shovel. 14 phone calls about this or that or whatever. How you going to take care of, what she going to do all day? You don't
Right,
have
yeah.
anybody home,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. And if you would have like project independence where you can get guidance and talk to people who can help, that's valuable. And it's very much what you're describing.
yeah.
How do you get through these things?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And along the same lines, like say Otto came and we talked, but wasn't quite ready yet for our program. What we
Yeah.
found through when we worked with Hofstra is that people appreciated the program simply because
Just
they know it
knowing, right?
exists.
It's like a little
Okay, I don't need
security
it right
blanket.
now, but oh, it's really good in case I do. And that brings like the stress level down a little bit.
All right. Well,
People
we
are
need to take a
aging.
quick break. And after the break, we will continue talking with Randy Hight, director of the Nancy Marks Cancer Wellness Center at St. Jacobson Jewish Community Center, all about the wonderful service provided at the center. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Kristina Liu, along with my co-host, Paula Ewell and Otto Los. We're going to jump right back in with Randy Hight, who is the director at the Nancy Marks Cancer Wellness Center at the Sid Jacobson Jewish Community Center. And before the break, we were talking about the wonderful support groups that are offered, but also a huge part, in the journey, as we've all been touching upon, is, like this holistic look at it, right? And how important mental wellness and the whole picture, for healing and dealing. So I'd love to know you about I looked at the calendar and there are so many different wellness services. So let's just go into all those.
So, just as any person needs to do, cancer survivors has to do that as well. So that is to take care of your mind, body, and your spirit. So we have exercise classes that are obviously geared specifically to cancer survivors, and they're taught by cancer exercise specialists. We have a rather new class. It's called BAM. It's Body Alignment and Movement. And basically what that is, it's not a lot of movement necessarily, but it's helping people to gain their balance back because of treatment. People often lose a lot of that. They also unfortunately get neuropathy in hands and feet. So that causes a lack of balance. So this is an opportunity for you to gently learn how to use your body rather than I'm exercising, I'm getting stronger. We do have classes for that. But this in particular, it's a lot of breathing, it's a lot of centering, and it's a lot of the ability to just gently get yourself into that place where you can feel in alignment. That's one thing.
That's great.
We also have, as I said, we have specialty programming that we do probably twice a month. So last month we had a Dr. Hildar, and I can't pronounce her last name. I'm sorry, Hildar. But she is, it was called Loving Kindness, and it was a meditation group. And she has a very strong connection with nature.
Yeah, it's great.
And when she does meditations, it's often about thinking about the beauty of nature and centering yourself with that. So, the goal is stress reduction. Often, sleep is a difficult thing for everybody, but also for cancer
Randy, don't look at us that way.
Yes, I know. I live it. We have a program called Coffee and Connection, and there's an opportunity to do an art project during that. And that's also very laid back, connecting with other people. And the art projects are basic. It's nothing that anybody has to fear that they don't have art skills. We do have a program coming up called Sound Healing Relaxation, and that's going to be in June. And of course, we have other programs that are going to be coming up, palliative care versus hospice care, not necessarily the most uplifting conversation,
But,
but
important
real
information,
important,
because
important.
I think those two, I mean, we've talked about it before. It's like, you don't know where or what the difference is. If you've never dealt with it, you're like, what do I do? So it's
Yeah.
Yep. And we have a pain management doctor from Northwell that's going to be coming in May. And then we have an attorney that's coming also in May, talking about Medicaid eligibility and life
Oh,
trusts.
that's good.
So that's those are not necessarily holistic, but
Very
I just
important.
want, yeah, I
Real
just wanted to
Yeah.
squeeze that in a little bit.
Listen, it is part of the whole experience, all right? It might not technically fall under the holistic, kind of thing, but I mean, we're always on this show such big advocates of preparing, right,
Yeah.
for things. And, because the worst, especially in this, is to be, because things, as we know, can change from day to day, and you don't want to be in a situation like, what do I do? Where do I go? I don't have things in order. And all these things you went into are all different kind of realms of things, that, they're not the most pleasant sometimes, but that you need to kind of think about.
Well, I mean, a
So.
real hard world part of it is pain management that you talked
Mhm.
about. That's a tough nut. I mean, it may not always be an answer.
Exactly.
You know,
But the doctors have been amazing. Again, as time goes on, the amounts and the different medications have been much more helpful to people. I mean, unfortunately, there's side effects to everything.
Yeah.
But the pain, as I said, from the neuropathy or just bone pain people may have from treatments and things like that it impacts your quality of life.
big time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's an important topic for people to understand that we're hearing what your concerns are and we're responding to it.
This BAM thing you talked about in the beginning,
Yes.
one of the things that happens with seniors in general, forget about cancer alone, is falling. And it sounds like that kind of helps you not to fall.
Yes.
How often is that done? And is it something that people can do on their own when they're home, basically?
So it's a weekly class.
Right.
And the goal is for people to be able to learn these exercises and to be able to use them on their own. So just as an example, we have one woman, and she takes care of her husband who has Alzheimer's. And he goes to programs, she comes to group,
No.
and she has neuropathy. So one of the things that she said she learned was monkey feet, a way of gripping your feet.
Like toes.
Yeah.
Toes. Yeah.
And so she said that it's helped her with her balance and her not falling. And so she came back and she's like, wow, who would think to do something
Right.
like that? But it appears that little thing is really making a big
Yeah.
difference. And, when people sometimes go to exercise classes, they want big movements.
Mhm.
They're looking for that
Right.
high intensity,
Right.
maybe not a lot of the seniors who have, their physical body has changed a lot since their treatment, but even, there are some who still want that heavy duty kind of an exercise. So there could be like a frustration of smaller movements of, more of the low key kind of a situation. But what's good about that is that it's, we have different things for different people. We
Right,
also
yeah.
have virtual classes still.
Okay.
So we have an exercise class on Mondays that's virtual, and we have yoga on Thursdays, and on Friday we have a full body workout. And people can just log on
That's great.
and they can go to our website, www.sjjcc.org/cancer wellness. And on our webpage, they can just click on the Zoom link and just go on to the classes. So we're trying to, for some people who are more impacted
Mhm.
by their disease or their treatment, there's still opportunities to move. And so what happens often is that people say, oh, I'm so tired.
Mhm.
The treatment's knocking me out.
Mhm.
Research shows that exercise helps
Yeah.
more than any medication that you can take. So movement, if you can, walk around your house, go from your front door to the end of your driveway, take a walk a half of a block, but whatever it is, move your body.
Mhm.
And so why are we having so many exercise classes is for that reason.
It's funny. I may be sitting in a chair and saying, I could take a nap now. And then I say, should I take a nap or should I go for a walk?
Right.
Oh, I like
Because
this.
if
What did
you
you
go
choose,
for the
Otto?
walk, all of a sudden the need to nap kind of goes
Right,
away.
yeah.
But I don't always give in.
Sometimes you just need
Oh,
a
the
nap,
third
right?
option, make a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
once in a while I'll
No,
nap.
can't do that. I'm at work.
That's right, Otto. We won't judge you. You do a lot of the walking.
You have a lot of programs and a lot of great stuff. And you said something earlier about not everybody is good at going, if you will, cold turkey into
Right, just
a
walking in
room
the
where
light,
they
right.
don't know anybody. All right. Some people are very uncomfortable
Mhm.
with that. And you used the words peer partners before.
Mhm.
Would they get involved with things like getting people started with things like this BAM program or whatever?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
how do you get like I'm social, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily a fan of going into a whole group thing
Yeah.
when I don't know anybody.
Mhm.
Like I play golf. I'm not necessarily one who's going to go by myself to the golf course.
Yeah. I
A
feel
lot
the
of
same way.
people are, so
Yes, yes.
the pe-
So
yeah,
the beauty of the peer partners is when people speak, they learn about everything that we provide through the Nancy Marks Cancer Wellness Center. That includes the exercise classes, the discussion groups, and anything in between. And so if somebody shows an interest in a class and says, that really sounds interesting, but I'm not really so sure I want to do it by myself. Some of the peer partners will say, okay, I'll go with you. We'll do it together.
Mhm.
Some of them will say, I will meet you. And if they're not capable of doing that, then they'll reach out to one of the social workers who will meet the people in the lobby and welcome them and bring them to the class. The bottom line is this is a community.
Yeah.
right.
It's, when you go to a hospital for treatment, you do your treatment,
And
you
you
leave.
leave, right?
Sometimes they have programming, and that's a great thing. It's, the more support, the better.
Yeah.
It's not the same feeling. It's still a medical environment.
Mhm.
It's still, you go in and you leave. You don't see the people afterwards. What we have done is we've brought people together. Not everybody wants it,
Mhm.
but those who do,
Yeah.
we've brought people together that they look out for each other and they'll call each other and say, hey, I heard you had treatment. This one had surgery. This one had whatever. And this has become, we use the word organic a lot
Yeah.
in what we do. This is organic. This is human connection, person to person. And of course, there are those people who want to go through this treatment and they don't want to even think about it. They don't tell their family members
Yeah.
that they have it.
Yeah.
And that's their choice.
Yeah.
Right.
But there are also a lot of people who
Yeah,
we
you talk it
see.
out.
Yeah, we see also a lot of women who've never been married, they don't have children,
Mhm.
that don't really have the support
Right,
system that maybe
right,
somebody
right.
else
Yeah.
has.
Right.
And so they're finding that we're here for them.
It's interesting. You
Awesome.
just said a lot of women. All right. One of the things that happens with Project Independence, they have an advisory committee meeting. There's 50 people there and there's 4 men.
Mhm.
If 4 men.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
They've been consistent now. I
Yeah.
think we've had 4 men
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah, right.
That the wives drag them in there, yeah.
Feather in
Where I
their
think I'm
cap,
going with that
somebody
is women are much more inclined to
Well, I
go
think that's
and
what, Randy was saying
support
too about the
than
men's group.
men for
Well,
whatever reason.
Yep.
And men need it just as much, but
Yeah.
they don't want to admit it, or I don't know what the story
Yeah.
is. I really don't. Like I had prostate cancer.
Mhm.
But I never even thought about a support group, to be blunt about it. but I was lucky. I had family support.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you get support
Yeah.
In different ways.
somehow,
Mhm.
some way,
Right.
but not everybody has that
Yeah.
good fortune.
No.
But I think the bottom line is, it's to me a mystery. Like women, I don't know. Do women get cancer more often than men?
I think so. I'm
Yeah.
not
I mean,
really
breast
sure. That's a
cancer
good
is-
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you're speaking,
I
you're
would,
saying
I don't know,
so
but I
many
would
people
say,
with
yeah.
breast
I mean,
cancer.
men
I
get
don't-
prostate
yeah.
cancer, colon cancer, and all kinds of other cancers, I'm
Yeah,
sure, but those are the
but
ones that,
I don't think it has anything to do with the population being larger of cancer survivors. I think it's the nature of how people are socialized. And so we have a population of men who are of a certain age, right? Seniors.
Mhm.
That's not something that they did
Right.
or
It's
do.
not like
Yeah,
I need
right.
emotional support. Where am I going to find it?
Exactly.
It's more concrete.
You know what's interesting? It's like I wonder, like, as you know, the generation as it goes on and they age, you know, the younger generation now is more likely to talk about certain things, you know, than, you know, the
Yeah.
older male population might be. So we might see a shift, you know, as time
well,
goes on.
Dan
which
just
is-
gave me some information
Oh.
here.
Oh, good.
It
Thanks.
says historically, men have had a higher incidence of cancer than women.
Is that
This
because
is
they
from
do more
American
research on
Cancer Society.
Isn't that they do
Yeah,
more research? I mean, we
interesting.
know that
Yeah.
population wise,
But yet
medical
I'll be-
research has more is done for men.
White men.
White,
Yeah.
I didn't
But
put
yet,
that part,
yet when
but
you have
yes.
support.
So I mean,
groups,
there's more information.
probably way more women than there are men
Mhm.
going to the support group.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And
for
why is
sure.
that?
Well, what about in golf?
Right,
Are
yeah.
men sitting around talking about their
emotional
their-
health?
Right, they're not.
No.
You know, when you come
That's
home
right.
and,
There you go.
and somebody says, "So, what did you guys talk about?"
I don't know.
I don't know, nothing.
The Yankees won last night.
I don't know.
Opening day.
And women call each other. That's the beauty of
Right.
being,
Yeah.
connected emotionally. Is women will call each other and say, I'm having a problem with my child, or my husband,
right.
or now it's a disease. Or, they're dealing with cancer, and it's the women who really keep so many things going.
True.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that.
I mean, we're not gonna
We
agree,
know
but
it.
we're gonna.
Yeah.
And I also see that we're very big on in recent times too, this power of writing. We're always you always see journaling, and
Yeah.
we're doing a lot of programs too. And I saw that that's something that you offer
Oh,
as
that's
well
wonderful.
there.
Yes, power of words.
Yeah.
And Leslie Popkin is an educator, and she does this as a volunteer. And she's been doing that for about 7 years, which is amazing. This is another one of our virtual programs.
That's nice. That's
Yep.
good.
So people can hop on, and what she does is she gives a prompt,
Mhm.
and then people write. It does not have to be about cancer.
Mhm.
And then they share their writing, and then they discuss it. And it's really another way of connecting with other people.
Mhm.
And so when people are saying, well, I'm not able to be there tomorrow because I have treatment that day or I have a test that day, everybody comes together and says, we wish you well. Is there anything
Yeah.
we can do for you? So people are not feeling alone
Right.
in
And you
this
can still
by
get the
themselves.
prompt and write it when it's a better time for you.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Helps to the
It's really,
flexibility.
yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
Writing is very powerful.
Yeah.
And actually, some people do use a computer, but using your hand,
Yeah.
right? You know that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Using
different.
it's very
It's
different.
just a different feeling. We say that all the time. Otto and I are constantly
Well, I
writing
mean,
lists
I
and
grew up,
crossing them
I'm
off.
a computer user, tech savvy, but I love pencil and paper.
Yeah,
know,
I'm with you.
Right.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
write stuff down,
Right,
It's just different,
If
it's
I
just
were
crossing it off,
isolated
right?
and I had a pad and a pencil, I could probably function.
Right.
I'd come up with something,
Something.
Yeah, absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think too with people, it's great, that you also have this virtual component because, as we were talking, the idea of not being able to, being scared to join something, I think, when it's virtual, it takes a little bit of that pressure off. And we are at the end of our segment, and just such wonderful, wonderful stuff. To get more information on the Nancy Marks Cancer Wellness Center, you can call 516-484-1545 to get connected, because there's so many services, as we know. I would like to thank our guest today, Randy Hight, who is the director at the Nancy Marks Cancer Wellness Center at the Sid Jacobson Jewish Community Center. I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.